Aloha and welcome to another ActiveTours.com travel review. Today we're on the Big Island of Hawaii and I'm going to teach you what you need to know about the Manta Ray night dive and the Blackwater dive. The Manta Ray night dive is the most popular night dive in the whole world. You want to make sure you book your ticket well in advance for this. After you check into the dive office, you head down to the docks where they give you a briefing on Manta Rays and why they're so special. Before we head out, I always like to check my gear. Make sure I have the right size wetsuit and fins, but the guys at Big Island Divers were on point. Once everyone had their safety briefing, we head out to enjoy the sunset. Some of the interesting things that I learned during the briefing is that manta rays are hunted. They fetch anywhere from $50 to $500 per manta ray. But in the tourism industry, each manta ray is estimated to be worth over $1 million of tourism money. Hopefully this kind of tourism will catch on in parts of Asia as well. It's a really great ride out to the dive site, and the guys provide all kinds of food and snacks on the way. So the dive site that we're going to is called Garden Eel Cove, right next to the airport. So as we get closer, there's 15 or 20 boats out here. Scuba divers, snorkelers, all waiting for manta rays. So if you're going to go snorkeling, this is the type of thing you're going to hang on to while the manta rays swim under you. Also, specifically for snorkelers, stick around to the end of this section and I'll let you know how to avoid being so seasick out here. One more safety briefing just to show us how to use these flashlights and tell us about the dive site. Big shout out to our dive master Josh for keeping us safe out there. After that, we gear up, triple check our gear, and do the waddle to the end of the boat. So once we get under, we head right over to the campfire. The campfire is a bunch of torches that the divers have set up that point straight up, as the snorkelers point theirs straight down. So what happens is the plankton feeds on the light, and then the manta rays feed on the plankton. So you line up down here right around the campfire. You're very heavily weighted because they want you to sink and stay at the bottom. Now after about 20 minutes of telling stories around the campfire, there was no manta rays. You have to remember that these are wild animals and they might not show up. After another few minutes of waiting, we went and explored the reef. But don't worry, this story has a happy ending. Once we started exploring the reef, it was pretty easy to see why they call this dive site Garden Eel Cove. We were all super bummed that we hadn't seen any manta rays and we had to surface. But once we got to the top, the captain yelled at us and said there was a manta ray down there. And those of us with plenty of air went straight down to the campfire. I can't explain to you how amazing it felt to finally see a manta ray. This dive has been on my bucket list for a long time, and it was well worth it. The markings on the belly of a manta ray are unique to that manta ray. It's kind of like a thumbprint, so this is a way to identify each and every manta ray. This particular manta looked like it had some damage to its right pectoral fin. If you happen to know the name of this manta, leave a comment down below. It's amazing how close they get to you just sitting still at the bottom of the ocean. There was a couple of people who tried to chase the manta ray. Don't do that. If you chase it, the manta ray may leave and spoil the fun for everyone. Just stick to the floor, close to the campfire, and enjoy the view. The depth of the dive site was about 45 feet. We were down there for about an hour, and there were many different dive companies down there around the campfire. Okay, so stick around for the Blackwater dive. That was my favorite dive of the night. If you're just going snorkeling, you may want to consider going with a snorkel-only boat. The snorkelers on our trip got out of the water and didn't get back in the water, so they sat on the boat for another 15 minutes while we were diving. And in the meantime, a lot of them got sick. Alright, so as amazing as the Manta Ray dive was, the Blackwater dive was by far my favorite dive of the night. We dropped everyone off who wasn't going on this dive. That included all the snorkelers and a couple of the divers. Then we headed 3 miles offshore, and the captain actually let me drive to the waypoint. After another check of the gear, we're in the water. Now it's pretty easy to figure out why this is called a Blackwater dive. Without these torches, we'd be in big trouble. So Blackwater diving is a unique night dive which takes you miles offshore where you'll be hanging, suspended from a 50-foot tether over 4,000 feet of water. Long after the sun sets, a vertical migration occurs, which means wild animals from the deep dark sea come to the surface to feed. Now I'm going to really depend on the YouTube hive mind to figure out what the names of these creatures are. So if you know the names, write it in the comments below with a timestamp so I can put it in the description. You're attached to a boat tether, which is about 50 feet, and then off of that tether is another line that allows you to swim freely around that tether. It's literally pitch black everywhere you look except for where your torch is, so it's a little disorienting when you get down. Just take a few minutes to figure out what you're doing. Once I got oriented and found neutral buoyancy, what I did was did a scanning motion with the torch back and forth slowly, every once in a while going a little bit lower until something caught my eye. And then I'd turn about 90 degrees and do it all over again until I found something really cool. It's hard to explain, but you feel like you're diving in almost nothing. And every once in a while you'll see a glimmer or a creature, and you'll swim over to it and spend a long time watching. This was the coolest thing I saw all night. The thing was the size of my head. I spent like 10 minutes filming it because it was so cool. The bioluminescence and just the structure of this creature made me really fascinated as to know what it is. So do me a favor, put a comment below, let me know what this thing is. It's amazing. So one of the interesting things is that people are still finding brand new creatures out here in these night dives. They'll come up from the deep and they'll find something that's never been photographed before. So I don't think I have any of that, but it is pretty cool to have an opportunity to take a picture of something that no one's ever seen before. About halfway through the dive, I kept hearing these clicking noises, and I knew something was out there, something big. You can just barely make it out in this video, but there was 2 sets of dolphin hunting and swimming around us. It was really amazing. Every once in a while, out of the darkness, you'd see this giant creature swimming right by you, and, to be honest, it's kind of frightening. Especially since in the dive briefing, there's mention of shark sightings. So be sure to book this blackwater dive early, as most shops limit it to 6 divers, and the spots fill up fast. And they don't go out every night. At a minimum, you're required to have at least 25 log dives, and at least 1 night dive. Especially if you're coming in the winter, keep track of the swell report, because all of the weekend dives on this trip were canceled. So I was really lucky to get on this one. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. Also comment below. Let me know what some of these creatures are. Until next time, I'm Josh with ActiveTours.com.